Yo, how's it going everyone? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be looking at what just broke out today. No, we're not talking about the koala escaping from the zoo. Sorry, X-Vault. We're not talking about you today. I know you're talking about me. I don't really care, but you can stay in the zoo where you belong. But what we're talking about today is, of course, Kadokawa and the fact that Sony might be acquiring them. Now, this is actually a really big thing for multiple reasons. The first being that this would pretty much give Sony a monopoly over the anime scene. Seeing as Sony already owns Funimation and Crunchyroll, Kadokawa would pretty much give them the monopoly that they actually want. Of course, I don't suspect the FTC will do anything about this because they are more interested in supporting foreign countries, at least in regards to anime and video games, than their own counterparts. Lena Khan, I know you're on your way out, but I really would have been interested to see if you would have done anything for this. But anyway, let's switch to the actual video itself because this is rather interesting. Now, as you can see here, Sony is in discussions to acquire Japanese publisher Kadokawa, which owns Elden Ring's FromSoftware. Now, you can guarantee that the moment this happens, any FromSoftware game will be exclusive to PlayStation. They will not be held to the same rigid restrictions that Xbox was held to when they bought ABK. And I know people are going to come out of the woodwork saying it's not the same. It absolutely is the same. Elden Ring is a massive game, as we have seen. You know, even Jeff Keighley himself, and I'm going to get to that in a little bit, actually changed the rules of the Game Awards so he could include Elden Ring's DLC as Game of the Year. Such is the prominence of Elden Ring. This game 110% will be exclusive to PlayStation's platform. I mean, I can't see Sony doing this any other way, and not a single regulator out there, not the CMA or the FTC, will actually step in to say no. We know this already because that is how it works. If it's an American-based company that tries to buy a publisher or a studio, the FTC and the CMA step in straight away. But if it's anything else, it's game okay. But this also has massive implications to the anime scene, giving Sony almost a complete monopoly, if not a monopoly, over the complete anime scene in the Western market, and of course in the Eastern market as well. Obviously, monopolies aren't looked on fondly, but it'll be interesting to see how this is actually going to play out. Now, obviously, Sony doesn't have a great track record with buying companies. They bought Bungie. We've seen what's happened to that. And before people say, yeah, but Pete Parsons did that, they done it under Sony's watch. Sony knew exactly what was happening, and yet they still let it happen. So Sony, at the end of the day, is primarily responsible for Bungie's demise. Then we saw Firewalk with Concord, you know, Herman Holst's Star Wars project. He clearly nurtured this from start to finish, saw what was happening, he was perfectly happy with it, and got every single one fired and the studio shut down. And there are more examples of this, like the Japan studio and whatnot. So they've not exactly been the best role models, even though the PlayStation fans will have you believe that Big Bad Xbox is the only one that lays people off. Whereas, in the grand scheme of things, Sony has probably had more studio closures in the last 3-4 years than Microsoft has. But let's not dive into that too much. The fact is, this is going to be something of a big problem. I wouldn't say a problem, but this is going to sway a lot of people. I think at this point, if Sony if Sony actually do go through with a purchase and make Elden Ring exclusive to the PlayStation platform after that purchase, it's going to be really interesting to see how Phil Spencer and Satya Nadella respond to that. Because if they do not respond in kind by now restricting their games that are on Bethesda, that are on ABK to other platforms, I can see a massive exodus from Xbox. I mean, that's just and I'm seeing a lot of sentiment about that around now, because I think this will probably be the final nail in the coffin. So it'll be very interesting to see, how this is going to dictate everything. Obviously, this still isn't guaranteed, and we've known for a while that, Kadokawa FromSoftware, Kadokawa especially, has had financial problems. They've kind of been, teasing the market with potential buyouts. We've seen this before, and they've been trying to kind of re-establish themselves in, with more financial security. Even with the success of Elden Ring, there's other aspects of Kadokawa that just isn't doing financially well. So this isn't any surprise that they're looking for someone to purchase them, but should the games be exclusive? Should other gamers from other platforms like PC and Xbox be excluded from these games? Clearly, with the ABK deal and now many Bethesda games, they are not going to be excluded. Will Sony do that in kind? I just don't see it. It's not in their DNA. This isn't what Sony does. Sony buys a studio and then makes it instantly exclusive. This is pretty much how they work. So it's going to be interesting to see how Satya Nadella actually deals with this, and I guess Phil, because at the end of the day, I still believe that Phil isn't happy with the direction that Xbox has gone. I get it's a business. The $69 billion deal actually changed things and now made Xbox a little more, instead of it being a plaything for Microsoft, now is like a actual thing, and they need returns. So I totally get that, and that's had to make adjustments for Microsoft. But if this deal goes through, it's going to be interesting to see how all of that transpires and changes, and what it will mean in 12 months from now, because this is a big deal in my opinion. And despite the fact I have no love for Elden Ring personally, it's just I'm not into Souls games. The reality is, it's huge. And Elden Ring won Game of the Year 2022. It's going to win Game of the Year 2024 as a DLC. That should tell you just how much people want this game. Of course, then you've got things like this. If Elden Ring wins Game of the Year, Sony gets credit. I mean, they're instantly already trying to take credit for a game they had nothing to do with, but that is how special the ponies actually are. They are pretty special. But then we come to the Game Awards, and I'm only going to briefly go over this because I think it's a farce, and, KJ Gamer, I think, is absolutely spot on here. As someone who loves Final Fantasy myself, Final Fantasy 14, Ed Walker got 92, which was the final expansion before they restarted the kind of 10-year saga. But the one before this, I think, got like a 93 or a 94. Shadowbringers, which was, in my opinion, one of the greatest expansions in the history of gaming. It was just brilliant. I mean, it's going to be hard for them to topple over. But why wasn't this rule introduced then? It's almost like Jeff Keighley knew about this acquisition rumor and wanted to give Sony something, right? I mean, now it kind of makes sense. It had nothing to do with Elden Ring getting 94 or 95 Erdtree. Jeff Keighley knew about this acquisition and decided, as a PlayStation shill, I want to go in and make sure that this is credited to PlayStation. I mean, that's the way I'm seeing it, folks. Maybe you're seeing it differently, but that's the way I'm seeing it. And finally, we have this little tidbit over here, which has nothing to do with the rest, but it's a bit of satire. Silent Hill 2 runs at 1080p in graphics mode, and it has poor image quality with PSSR still. Video out maybe tomorrow. Nibs tries to damage control here with 846p, and that's why you're getting the graphics tessellation and whatnot, the artifacting. But he, Blessed Red here completely shuts him down and says, nope, sorry, it's locked at 1080p. As far as Digital Foundry can see, it looks better than performance mode, but it clearly has the same issues. Performance mode is 900p. Yeah, there's no perfect place to play, even though PC has now had multiple patches that actually fix the stutters that were in place. It's not totally gone, but it's still there. But it is what it actually is. But I love the way that, even now Nib is trying to damage control his way through. And well, folks, that's pretty much it. At the end of the day, this deal with Kadokawa is going to be really interesting on two fronts. One, Sony will get a monopoly in the anime scene, and will the regulators actually allow this? Nvidia tried it by trying to buy out ARM, and they said no because they would have a monopoly. They are very anti-monopoly. So will they actually allow it? And at the same time, with such a big game going over to PlayStation, Sony is definitely going to try to make the next Elden Ring exclusive to PlayStation. Will the regulators have the balls, and I'm saying balls, to actually step up and do the right thing? Will they be fair? My money's on no, but we'll find out sooner or later. If you've enjoyed this video, do consider leaving a like, hit that subscribe button, hit that bell to stay up to date of all content I release, and I will see you in the next video. I will be live tonight, so we'll be talking about all of this stuff and the Game Awards, and we'll actually be going through the nominations and voting as well tonight. So let's get that done, and hopefully I'll see you all there. Until next time, stay safe and remain legend.